Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting of the Community Center Committee to order at 12 minutes after 9. May we start with a roll call, please?
Oh, can I read the?
Yes, do the introduction. I'm sorry.
It's okay, no worries. All right, thank you for joining us this morning for the January 24th, 2023 Monte Sereno Community Center Committee meeting. Before the meeting is called to order, I'd like to point out a few house rules to assist council members, staff, and members of the public to successfully participate in this meeting. Council members and commissioners, your microphone is live, so please keep your microphones on mute until you wish to speak. For this morning's meeting, we're using Zoom to host the City Community Center Committee meeting. At the bottom of the Zoom client, there are two icons, chat and raise hand. Please use chat only to report technical issues such as being unable to hear a council member or commissioner speaking. Please use raise hand to be recognized by the mayor and unable to speak to the council. And to comment under oral communication or any other agenda item, you are allowed 3 minutes to speak per agenda item. Only attendees using the Zoom application can raise a hand an option to comment. Participants calling in from a telephone will only be able to listen and cannot provide feedback or public comment. And lastly, because we're not all in the same room, all votes in this meeting will be taken by roll.
Thank you. I will call the meeting, the Community Center Committee meeting to order at 9:14 a.m. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Zeiber? Here. Commissioner White?
Here.
Vice Mayor Wolsheimer? Absent. And Mayor Megachuk?
Present. I think that I'll jump ahead for a moment to our newly appointed member of the public, Ms. Heather Harrington. She's now a member of the committee. So do we want to add her into the roll call?
How would you like me to address your public member Harrison?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, so public member Harrington? Here. Thank you.
You. At this point, we'll go to oral communications where any member of the public can say anything on any item related to Monte Sereno, but not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand or come to the podium.
There are no hands raised.
No hands raised. I'll close oral communications and move to written communications. I believe that we received a written communication some time ago, which was before the committee was formed, but we would like the committee to acknowledge that and make sure that that public comment is taken. So that will be attached to the minutes?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Going on to new business, we already welcomed Heather Harrington to our committee. And the next item is I'd like to provide some follow-up comments from my meeting with the Los Gatos Monte Sereno Police Department regarding what their requirements would be for the community center. And I met with the Chief of Police, Jamie Field, and we reviewed the plans and discussed what the PD's requirements would be. And I learned that the police department has facilities available in the event of an emergency, and they would not require using the facilities here per se to rest. And they've got those facilities, but she underscored the need to have a flexible center that was configurable and that could they could use as a mobile center. And the specific examples that she gave was for the Los Gatos holiday parade that's held in early December. So she said it would be used for that, but she stressed have it configurable. And then after that meeting, I provided her feedback and comments to our architect, Gary Kohlsaat, and Jack. So with that, I think we now move to, sorry, there's one, now we're on item 2, and the city council met, and when we appointed Heather Harrington to the committee, and I believe we've given direction to staff to open it up for 2 more members of the public. We want this to have public input so that it reflects the interest of the community. With that, now we can move to unfinished business, which is for Gary Kohlsaat to present where they are with drawings and the scheme.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everybody. I appreciate everybody being here. There we go. Testing. Yeah. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome everybody to this morning meeting for the community center. Following up from last week, I really appreciate everybody's feedback because it truly is valuable. And I'm not just saying that because Jackie and I went back and we took a look at what we have had, and the initial ideas kind of like turned upside down a little bit, which allowed us to kind of be a little more creative as well and really focus on what the real issue and problem of this will be. And I think we have, I'm really excited to show you what we have. Jackie can share her screen. We're going to start with the site plan. I'm going to talk about the key items first, and that's coming up on our screen here. So one of the biggest takeaways that we got was, let's not demolish any of the existing structure. Let's not make it any smaller to create outdoor spaces, because we felt that the interior spaces were much more valuable. And since we already had them, it doesn't make any sense, you know, to already have something and throw it away. So we reconfigured the interior space to accommodate the existing rectangular 30 by 33 building, which is called the community center on the site plan, and it's that rectangular space. And then we still have the addition, which we made just a little bit larger. We're maximizing the addition to go to the ultimate, the limit that we're allowed by the building code between the 2 structures. And it's approximately 24 feet, which we had it originally at 20 feet. So that is in a nutshell the footprint of the building, and we're going to get into the interior in a minute. But what we actually received the CAD file from the surveyor, and we've been able to input the terrain, and so we have a 3D model now, and you can see the contour lightly beyond. You can see, like in the parking lot, there's a contour line that Jackie has just highlighted, so that those are just there's not a lot of slope to the property, but there is some. And when we get into the ADA pathways and everything, it's really critical that we are on spot there. And then we took it just a little bit farther, the front. We just threw in a couple of pathways to kind of further the concept of that front garden. This is just purely schematic. It's just imagery, just to kind of get everybody to get an idea what could be. This is not really in our scope to do the landscaping, but we just can't help ourselves, to be honest. But So we haven't done any striping or anything like that right now. We're just gonna focus on the structure. So to that, I would say, Jackie, is there anything else we need to add from a high level sticks? Okay, so let's jump to our floor plan.
May I interrupt you?
Yeah, if anybody, sir, please.
How many square feet do we have in the existing building? I believe it's 943 or something. And do you know what the number is in the total number of square feet?
Well, we're gonna figure that out right now. So we're adding 460 square feet
Okay.
to the 930.
43
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
so if you want to put it on the MLS, it'll go at no. So here's our new floor plan, and we're going to start with our lobby. We have a real lobby now, and the doors are shifted over from where the existing door was on the far right hand side. We moved it over to the left. There's currently nothing. That's just a blank wall there. So we've located the doors there. They're a double door to allow for, lots of people coming in and out, moving furniture, etc. And then we have this little lobby, which is a nice welcoming space. It could be a reception area. It could be something where people are given information. It could be checking credentials. It could be, checking in as an, invitation only event, etc. And then to the right, we have a little vestibule, which has some storage closets area, which helps separate our restroom, which is a 2-room restroom. It has a dressing area, a separate dressing area, and then a separate toilet, urinal, and a shower area. So that is really nicely situated away from everything, but it's still centrally located. So it has an element of privacy. It's actually very conventional for people to it's a very common thing, so no one's going to get confused. Hey, where's your restroom, right? It's pretty obvious. So this is nice. But now we get into the heart of the building here, and it's truly morphed into this much more open gathering space. It's a multifunctional, multi-configurable space. It's not as we had it before, where it was kitchen dominated. Now there is a nice kitchen, but it's not the first thing you see. It's actually tucked away onto the north there, the far right corner, upper right corner of the space. It has a large island. It's over 10 feet long. So it's going to be great for those presentation, cooking classes and things like that. Also, it's going to serve just like everyone else's kitchens are as a gathering space to hang out. It could be used for catering. It could be used for multiple functions, not just cooking. The middle of the space is still the existing. Now that's all the existing. So to the left is the addition, that rectangular space we're calling the gathering room. Got a lot of furniture in there, and it has that fireplace for that homey feel. But to the right, that rectangular space we're calling the new meeting room, which show a large conference table. That's still the existing space, if you recall. And so that has the vaulted ceiling. It's got the open beams that we're looking at keeping. And I'll get into that in a second. And then it opens up to this living room. So now you can see we have, I don't know what that is. That's probably over 55 feet long space, one open space that could be brilliant. Now, some of the suggestions we got the other day were to maybe be able to shut some of these off with accordion door systems. That certainly could be something that we consider. It could be an add-on item. It could be something that's done in the future, should that happen to be something that's come up and maybe you don't do it now. So those are things that you can consider later. but we're not making it like a set permanent thing now, because we want to leave this as open and flexible as possible. We have, then we have the large gathering room, which is 23 to 24 feet. We're going to get the exact length on that when we verify precisely what the distances are from the overhangs to each other. And that room also has a vaulted ceiling. And then what we have now is a smaller but more functional covered veranda outside. So as you recall before, we had that as a trellis area, and the area where this lobby was a covered area over the existing roof. The feedback we got was like, well, trellises are nice, but maybe the covered area would be better. Right now, we are going to show this as a covered solid roof with open walls. It could easily go back to a trellis if that's what's desired, or if that's what the budget allows. So these are these things that we can kind of do placeholders, and we can do options. And as we go through the bidding process, I call it preliminary cost estimate, or PCE. When we go through the PCE process, that might be one of the things that we ask our bidders to, hey, if this is a solid roof with a membrane, waterproof membrane, slope to drain, what's the cost for that versus if we're just doing a cedar trellis, you know? So, and I would assume that it's probably about, I don't want to say anything, but it's probably half the cost, right? Somewhere around half the cost to do a trellis than a solid roof. But the solid roof may be more functional, and that's something that we would like to get more input from everybody on that. And maybe we decide that this is what you want to do, and we just go forward with that, or you say, no, let's do a trellis, and we go forward with that version.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So the covered veranda is outdoor space. You wouldn't be able to close it up and air condition it.
That's correct. That would not necessarily at this time be a space that's a more interior space. It could, but you're going to have because of the location of the columns and our desire to have this walkway that really exists today, and we're extending it over that covered walkway. I don't know if Jackie, you could kind of mouse where we're talking about. So we have this covered porch here that's about 5 feet deep, right? And the idea is to have that as a continual pathway to the lab that connects to the other building. So that becomes our full ADA accessible connection. If you enclose that veranda, would you go all the way to the column line, which would now interfere with that pathway? You could work it out, but it's going to impact the parking quite a bit. And then, but if you went just the depth of the building itself, you're only talking 10 feet. So you'd have a 10-foot by 24-foot shaped room. And to me, that's not very functional whatsoever, and a lot of added cost to enclose that space.
Did you not say at the beginning that we're maxed out on the square footage that you can put here? Can you kind of go over the square footage we're allowed to make? How big can we make this building?
I don't know if that's ever been addressed.
Okay, I thought at the beginning you said this was the max we could build square footage wise. No,
I don't think if that's what you got from that, I didn't mean to say that.
Okay.
We were just using the whole building itself and then making the addition. The addition is maxed out lengthwise because of the separation between the two structures.
Mm-hmm.
The existing, City Hall and Monte Sereno has strict rules about separation of buildings. The building code does as well, but I think Monte Sereno makes it even a little bit more than the minimum.
I like the covered veranda because it gives us, I want to make sure that we're going to capture all the rainwater that comes off the roof. So that's pretty important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would actually be more roof capture, and we could use, we have the specific type of roofing that we would use that doesn't necessarily contaminate the water. There's different membranes available to us for our flat roofs, flat roofs. And there's one that's more preferred for rain capture.
Mayor, I have someone from the public raising their hand. Is this some time for anybody to ask questions?
I think we want to have this a discussion. So yes, let's.
Mary?
Yes, please.
Yes, I see all this furniture. Where does it go when the tables are out?
Yes, that's a great question. This furniture is shown for graphic purposes. We were just trying to show what could happen, but obviously when you have large sofas like that and you need to move them out of the way for round tables, which we showed dashed. You can see the round table shown in the background as another option of furniture. Yes, that could be a potential issue. If so, indeed, the city did purchase this furniture. The furniture is furnishings and not part of the structure, and so that could be addressed down the road. But it's certainly something to talk about. But I do want to point out, thank you, because we do have a very large storage closet next to the lobby that could be configured either in this manner, or we could have an extra door from the lobby to break that storage into two, depending on how it's more functional. But we show all those 60-inch round tables stacked on end where it says storage right there. You can see all those lines there, and then stacks of folding chairs. And so we wanted to have a place to store all of the folding, the portable furniture. But certainly to have all that extra, the upholstered furniture is something that would have to be considered down the road. You're right. So
I think
great question though. Great question.
I think having just been to a conference for the first time in a couple of years, and seeing how the hotels set up rooms that are multifunctional with the furniture, like the tables that kind of nest inside of each other and whatnot. I think there's some opportunities there so that we have it as configurable as possible. And then I think we also are going to need a budget for furniture in addition to the budget for the building. But great question. Thank you. And if any member of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand.
Or physical.
Or your physical hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions because we were talking about the furniture. Is there going to be like any kind of a screen projection or a display screen and projector that could be used for like any kind of classes or any meetings that require that kind of projection? I don't know how much, what level of details is shown in this particular diagram. So I don't know if that is deliberately left out or it's just in
the actual screens, whether they're TV screens or rolled on projection screens, haven't been plopped in there or anything like that, but we have thought about that as a function. Okay. And so those could easily be added in multiple locations of this building.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Another question is this veranda over here, are the outer walls, are there outer actual walls demarcating it, or is it just an open space?
It's just an open space. It'd be like a very large covered porch you would have, or a lanai, or loggia, or all the other terms that we use in the architectural world. They all pretty much mean the same thing. Yeah, it's just a covered area that's about 15 by 24.
You've got a 3D model of this, don't you?
We do, and we will be showing you a 3D very shortly. Yeah, which will help to better explain the building from the outside, maybe even from the inside. I don't know. We're real excited to show you this outdoor views. We have Jackie's, she's just so good, and she's so, she's really done a lot on this in a short amount of time. And I think it's going to help everybody visualize and see what we want to do here. Any other questions? Yeah,
real quick, just before we go into the nitty gritties of it, what's the capacity of the space that's enclosed in terms of number of people that could be in there?
So we did figure that out. What is it, 62?
I haven't done it, yeah, it's in the 60s.
It's in the 60s? Yeah. So it's pretty sizable. Because we're over occupancy of 50, we have to have a second exit. Right now, we're hopeful that last door right there can function as an egress. And it has to be a certain distance away from the main door. If that doesn't physically work, then we have 2 windows opposite of the fireplace. That's an electric fireplace, again, by the way, which is a great way to show people, newer technologies. One of our missions, right?
Yes.
So that one of those windows could be converted to a door.
And in the kitchen, that's not a door on the lower end. That's a window instead, right?
So we have windows in the kitchen on those 2 sides that faces the road. Those 2 are smaller windows to add extra light, and then the window facing Highway 9.
We have Mary again.
Oh, Mary, go ahead, please. Or are you finished?
I'm all finished. Thank you very much.
Mary?
Yes, I have 2 questions. One of them is the fireplace solar, and the other question is, does impervious coverage come into play on the city hall in this structure?
Okay, I'll answer the first question. The fireplace is an electric fireplace, so it could be run off of solar power. Solar power is going to come in the way of lots of solar panels, which we have, which will be proposed and integrated into the plans. They won't be roof tiles, but they'll be solar panels. We have multiple locations that we can put the solar panels on this roof, and then we will have battery storage for backup. I hope that answers question number 1.
Yes.
And question number 2 is a good question. Currently, if Jackie, would you show the site plan? Currently, the existing space that we are taking over for the structure and for the addition and the veranda is almost entirely paved. So that there's a drive-through between the 2 buildings. That will go away completely. So we are actually going to be a positive in terms of replacing impervious coverage with permeable area. The whole area between the building and the street, which is all currently paved, will go back to planted areas, except for maybe a little pathway. And so we actually we're gaining, it's a positive towards impervious or permeable coverage. So that's always, anytime we're going in that direction, it's a win. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I'm excited to see the 3D.
Okay, any other questions while we're on the floor plan? Or we need to go back to the site plan?
We can always come back to the floor.
We can always come back to anything, sure. Okay, there you go. So we're showing you the outside in a different program that we use, and it's a great rendering tool for us. It kind of gives you more of a reality. The only thing you're not going to see is the curb that separates the sidewalk from the street. We don't have all the grades in 100%. And we just added some landscaping, nothing specific, just to fill in the spaces to help your eye, so it's not just blank. and to give you some three-dimensional feel and texture. So one of the comments that we received was that the building is so plain and not visible. It's really almost hard to see, and you drive by, you don't even see it. So we don't want to make this building stand out above and beyond necessarily the community city hall. We felt that there's a hierarchy. City hall should probably be a little bit more, have more prominence than the community center. And also we're trying to preserve the existing roof as much as possible. So that's also one of the goals, is to maintain not only the exterior walls, but the roof. And so those are all parts of the demolition versus rebuild numbers here. So we would like to do something. And so what we've proposed is just a small gable over the center portion that that kind of breaks up just a long linear eave without any other kind of articulation. This would build up and over the existing roof and take place of where the porch is. We still feel pretty strongly that there's a porch shouldn't be here because number one, no one's going to sit underneath that porch because it's just too loud. It's not a very pleasant place necessarily to spend a lot of time. But also when you have a porch that's like that, it's telling you that there's an entry there and that we really don't want to confuse people. We want it to be very clear where the entrances are. And if you put a porch there, someone's going to expect a door. And part of the reason that we're not having doors there is because of the grading and the pathways and everything else. And so, and just the function of the building, the more secure the building, have less doors there. Imagine if you had a door in that street and it's open all the time, you'd hear the cars, all the time. So it'd be very disruptive. But we wanted to do something. So this is just a straight gable. And if you see, Jackie, if you pull that back just a little bit or change your angle, you can see how we've just kind of played up on the two gables that are existing of the city, the center, the building, the city hall, and we've added the third gable. So the first gable on the right is a larger gable, and then there's a smaller gable on the end, which will now become more the middle. And we have one more gable. But we're just trying to, create a little rhythm and a little breakup, and you can see how it's almost very symmetrical in a way, right? So that's just a simple thing we wanted to do to create a little bit more vertical on the building. So as you're driving by, it might catch your eye. And the big thing that we show here is this arbor right in the middle that is suggesting an entry, a passageway. And so when hopefully we have a community that can be a little more pedestrian, bicycle friendly, that they can come into this in the middle as well as just people wanting to walk around the building, see a drought tolerant landscape, look at the different plants. They'll probably have labels on them. This is a great demonstration garden opportunity as well. And so there was just something to kind of unify these two buildings. And this actually is in front of the buildings into the setback, but we believe it meets all of the ordinances as an arbor. But we will definitely vet that with planning.
I'll jump in with a comment and then a question. My comment is, this looks great. I really like this. And I think the gable idea is to see it all of a sudden now I get it. My question though is, will we meet the 50% of the roof with seeing heads nod?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so I'm good, and so long as we meet that, continue. Let's go.
This is only 20% of the roof that we're covering.
Okay, perfect.
If that. So we'll continue to cruise around. Well, Jackie, if you wanted to go around the building first.
Well, we're still in the front here.
Oh, okay.
I love how it's tied together now visually. Do you have thoughts on where the best place would be for signage so that people know that it's City Hall and a community center?
Right now, the sign is just before you get to the driveway. So there's a bush right there, right? You can see Jackie's arrow. There's that one little bush there. So there is a sign right there. That's probably where I would probably just keep it. Maybe it's modified a little bit, maybe not, but for now, I think it would function fine right there. You might need more signage around the corner to indicate, hey, this is where the entrances are, parking, things like that. Because right now the sign is right there where the driveway is, correct? Yeah. And so I still think you need some signage, and perhaps it's a V sign where it's kind of at an angle, so it points to multiple directions. That's another. You could put a sign that's parallel with the road as well, but it's less visible when you're talking about, you know, a highway. It is a highway, right? So, but that's something that for sure, I think, I don't know if you have a sign committee or if you want to work with us on that in the future, but signage is definitely something that should be really thought carefully about.
Well, I'll jump in, and we want to have some type of a veterans memorial. And this has been talked about for a number of years. And in the landscaping, whatever, it's just signage is very important, and also considering how we incorporate some type of veterans memorial would be good.
That would be fantastic to incorporate that. Yeah. That would give it way more purpose, right?
Yeah.
So, absolutely fantastic.
I do have a question.
The trees that we show, by the way, are like trying to represent the two oak trees that are there.
Yeah. So right under the table that you're showing there are two narrower windows. Like,
right.
Are they kind of like a long window that just has a covering in between, or is it like two narrower windows? Like, I'm just thinking that it's just me, like visually, like the other windows are much wider in that space, and this is almost like pulling you visually to the gable, but it's not like.
That's a really good point, a comment on this. We looked at several different window types as we've been working on this building, and of course, as we change the floor plan, the windows, locations, and types want to reflect that as well. Certainly, we'd be happy to study what it would look like to replace those two smaller windows with one larger window that is similar to the other windows. You put it right in the middle of the space, which I think could be just as good. But to see how much wall we're left with, is it creates too much plain wall or something. So we want to have some simplicity of this, and we also want to be cognizant of the audio issues that we have from Highway 9. There is technology when we choose these windows, that those windows in particular should be spec for noise cancellations. So, you know, it's not the end of the world to have glass there, but we want to be, you know, we want to be careful not to overdo that. But yeah, we can certainly look at the elevation of that and play with the windows. The side is basically the same as in the roof. There's a double wide window that we're replacing with two single wide windows on the side there. There's mechanical equipment on that. We're behind some kind of a fence that's there right now. We'll maintain that. And the area on the right, the parking area on the right can be considered configured as as one of the drive-throughs for emergency services if someone needs to come in and pick up, you know, cases of water or other items in case of periods of emergency, that could just be coned off, and it would be very convenient for residents to come in here, drive in, and then, you know, leave. So, but this is the existing, or not the existing building, but the view from the parking lot of this structure that's not changed all that much. We, you know, besides the siding redo, the big thing that we did here is we removed 2 of the 5 columns. We wanted to create more open space. And we feel that there's a beam splice at the middle. And so we're hoping that without too much upgrade or retrofitting, that beam will span, and the columns are there more for looks rather than structure. We're going to verify that. If we had to put the columns back in, we could. But you see how the double doors are very open and welcoming, and that column would land right about where that white stripe is, and it would kind of block that door just a little bit. So it's not perfect. And so we were proposing just to remove those 2 columns, and then it actually matches it comes better, closely works with the rhythm that we have for this covered veranda patio area with 1 extra column. So it's not the perfect rhythm, but it's closer than if we had all of those extra columns. You could alternately, I like to give you guys alternates, so, you know, show you we've been thinking about it, but also to put these out there to you. We could leave those other 2 columns. You can have 5 columns there, and we can take the single column and put 2 columns on the veranda. So you have this sense of a colonnade. But if Jackie pulls back a little bit, you can see the existing covered porch that goes into the new building department. That's a pretty wide span there. It's just 2 columns holding up the gable. And so we felt that this was better keeping of the whole, to do less columns and larger spans. So that was our rationale behind that. And it probably is going to save money because you have less columns.
No question.
Yes.
I like your columns idea, because it's just more place to stand and chat and such. From a safety perspective, is there a way, if someone drives through that double door, is there a way to just put some sort of obstacle to prevent that happening?
Actually, we're going to be required to do bollards or some sort of restraint from automobiles coming in to that. And we're going to want to as well. We've been kicking around different ideas. The obvious thing is just to put bollards there. We also thought about the idea of incorporating a structural railing that would serve the same function, but it's more of a decorative feature. You know, you don't need a guardrail there, but it does help to define those spaces from parking, and it helps to control your how you direct people as well. So if everybody's pulling in and just walking right in, rather than, you know, directing them around into the 2 ends of that space, that also helps. So there's something that we're going to mock up and show as an option for bids. It's probably the more expensive option, but I think it's really attractive, and it's something we would build out of steel, and it would be secure, and it would be strong enough to resist, to meet the bollard standards. Yes. Yeah, we're not showing it right now because we wanted to show more of the overall schematic of that space. But that's next on to decide. Absolutely.
Would it be possible to make like steel planter boxes? Because there's no landscaping on this whole side, this parking lot that kind of goes up to. If we made some sort of long linear planter box out of steel that could serve as the barrier, and I don't know if we want to do that, our upkeep of maintenance or whatever, to keep those looking good, but it would be really nice to have some greenery on this side of the building. to break up the parking lot from the buildings.
I personally think that's an excellent solution. I think that could be solved with the right kind of structural planter boxes, for sure. Yeah, whether they're steel or concrete or a combination thereof, yeah. And I think that the idea of bringing in some greenery would be wonderful. They could be on a drip system. You could grow tomatoes there. I don't know.
Have a kitchen garden.
Yeah.
And Gary, this depiction shows a covered roof over the flat roof.
That's correct. It's a flat roof. When we say flat, it means almost flat, right? It'll have some kind of a gutter system around the outside. So also the existing roof on the right and the new roof behind the flat roof, which is the addition, would both drain onto this flat roof, but then would drain off. Okay. And then into our rain capture system. We're gonna have some kind of a cistern. I don't know where that's located, but the idea is to have a storage tank, right? So this year it would have come in handy. Well, let's hope it's the same in the future. And then you can see that this is the existing pathway configuration. One of the ideas is to leave it to save the infrastructure that's there and not incur costs of demolition and off-haul. And then redoing the concrete patio. So we believe it meets all the ramp standards for ADA. And it is curvilinear. And so maybe that's good. So you don't want people you want people to slow down a little bit with these curved walkways. So that's the idea, is to keep it. And if it can remain, or the majority of it can remain, I think it also goes towards our mission of maintaining as much as we have already and not wasting. So, and you can see that everything's connected now off of the parking lot into walkways. So you can go from the far right, you can enter the building on the far right, underneath that covered area, through that blue striped section. You can enter there and you can walk all the way through, and you can cross that little walkway and you can connect into the community development center, and then onto the chambers here and the side door over there. So everything now is connected with pedestrian pathways.
I'm excited. I want to see inside the building.
What do you have, Jackie? Did you do something? Okay, yeah, of course. One of the things we do with these outdoor covered areas, we do these often with our homes. We put speaker systems in there. We put lighting in there, of course. We might put fans. We will put heaters. I don't know if heaters are something that we would want to consider. We can always pre-wire for heaters and put them in at a later date. We do that quite often as well. And the other thing we will often do is put a skylight or two in here to really kind of brighten it up, because the functions are shade, but also protection from the elements. And with a trellis, it's almost a negative in that respect, because when trellises get wet and then it stops raining, but they keep dripping. So it's almost worse. I mean, trellises are great in certain locations, but this may be better suited for a solid roof. But the downside of the solid roof is it blocks the light. And so if we configure the skylights in certain areas to either let light into the interior space or put it right in the middle of that covered area, just to kind of anchor that center area under a skylight, fire resistant skylights, glass, could be really pretty and effective.
One of the things that they had in the other building that we asked to be put in was in the prior plans were solar tubes so that you get the light coming in, but the cost is a fraction of what the cost of a true skylight is.
Yes.
And it provides the light inside. I'm a big advocate of those. And it helps with our T24 as Title 24 as well.
We might consider doing a skylight in the lobby or vestibule or something like that. It might be, and solar tubes could certainly be a much more cost-effective solution.
Oh, and in the restroom and stuff. Anyways, those are details.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But here would be, we would want to make it more architectural. It might be something that's 5 by 5. Maybe it's a little pyramid or something. Maybe it's 6 by 6. It should be scaled proportionally to that space. It could be rectangular. So it could be really kind of a really very nice feature that lets some sun in there as well. And I can see this space being utilized, for more than just, lunch breaks or events. It could be a multiply used, space. Here you can see it as not enclosed, right? So that's the idea. So here is a view as you enter into the lobby. You're immediately, presented with that center space. And it's really becoming quite a nice hall. We're showing the beams, the existing beams, but we painted them just for simplicity. That's something we'll do quite often. They're pretty dark stained, and so I don't know if they work with our interior scheme. It's really simple just to paint them. The ceiling has existing decking, which would remain and maybe be stained or painted or something like that as well when we work with the interiors. And we thought we would just continue that to the left. You'll see a dividing section, that solid wall there on the left between the two spaces. That could also be done with a truss. We could put an open beam with a king post holding up the ridges. So that's just really one bigger space talking to each other with one truss at the wall line. That's certainly a way to handle that. And then on the right, we thought it would be better to have a flat ceiling in the kitchen for multiple reasons. One is it just makes lighting so much more effective and easier to do on a flat ceiling, task lighting in particular, hanging lights if you want hanging lights. But we also thought it'd be beneficial to have some attic space here. We might put a vent in that ceiling. We might, we have the flat ceilings in the restroom and the lobby. So all of that would tie in as well for some flat, some attic space, and then some open beams like that. So here's a view, what you might see from that space looking towards the kitchen area. And you can see how it's really connects. It has kind of a residential feel, but that could be, we just put placeholders in here so you guys can get the sense of scale and purpose of what we have here, and get the idea of where the windows are and everything like that. So don't read too much into the colors, right? The finishes, more just the mass of it, right?
What's the distance from the finished floor to the ceiling?
10
in the kitchen?
10 feet.
10 feet.
Yeah, because we've lowered that whole floor down to 2.5 feet, so it's 10
Is
feet.
that window to the left? That's going to be pretty low outside the building with the grade, isn't it?
It's what depends on how
It's all to scale on when we saw the exterior.
Yeah, we think that the outside grade is going to be about 1 foot or 18 inches up against higher. It's going to be retained on the front. So yeah, it'll be lower. So we definitely want to take a hard look at these windows on the front hand side. We set all our windows at 8 feet. That's our normal. window header height is 8 feet, so there's about 2 feet to the ceiling from the windows. And those windows look like that larger window looks like it's about 3 feet off the floor. Looks like to be even with our countertops. And the other windows are higher up. The sills are raised just to provide more backsplash, and those are more really just for light and natural ventilation. Those windows could open. By the way, we're thinking all the windows on the front will be fixed. And we just have a couple of operable windows along with the doors. But that would provide great cross ventilation through there. So I do want to talk. Did you have a question?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Is this a cooktop there? And if it is, because you talked about having cooking classes, how is it ventilated?
Yes, Mary, this is, there'll be a cooktop. We show a cooktop in the island. Jack, if you could tilt it a little bit, maybe you can see, it's not really showing up because it's like a stainless dark black into the black cabinet, like countertop, but that would be an electric induction cooktop. And what we're doing now, we can vent it in 2 methods. We can do a downdraft, which is not my preference. We don't want to drop a hood over this space because that would interfere with the visual sight lines in case you wanted cameras and screens where all those shelves are behind there. Could be a large screen, and that was answer one of your questions earlier, right? That could be either a portable, like a removable screen or a fixed screen back there. But we were sensitive to that hood. And so there's new products now that sit flush with the ceiling, and they really work pretty well. And that would be what we would recommend here. It'd be a vent that's flush with the ceiling that would come on with switching and or other kind of controls. And that's another reason why I prefer a flat ceiling in the kitchen, because we can do things like this now. We can put these flush vents and then have a way to get it out.
Well, you've also got a 10-foot ceiling, which is a lot. That's a nice ceiling.
10 feet is great.
Yeah,
definitely. Did I answer your question, Mary?
Yes, because I know you absolutely need venting, and even though the ceiling is high, that wouldn't, a high ceiling doesn't take away from needing a way to get the exhaust out.
Yeah, these are working better than the downdrafts. And the downdraft also will block the visual access to the cooktop from anybody watching someone doing a cooking presentation, right? And they also are prone to misuse. So these I want to call them revolutionary events are really making our modern open kitchens today much more efficient possible. So I commend our partners in the appliance world for keeping up with the times.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
I was wondering, in terms of how we anticipate using it in day-to-day usage, if we're having it kind of be also like a break room, or smaller groups use it that might not open the double doors all the way, do we anticipate people just kind of going in and out through the main door, or would it be useful to have a door to the patio? Those big retractable ones, do they also have an option of opening a single door for less usage? And then I have a second question about something else.
So that multiple door comes in several configurations, and the way we show it is to have one single door that would act without having to uncouple all of the other doors. And so you can come in and out that door. If we could figure out a locking mechanism. I don't know if that is able to have a key lock on that to come in and out. So right now, without just having a standalone door, that might have to be you might have to come in and out of the lobby. We're not 100% sure this concept's going to work as far as our second egress door. Generally, these kind of multi-folding doors don't have panic hardware, but we're going to be working with manufacturers and hardware specialists to see if we can make all that work. Because we like the idea of having the ability to open up these doors all the way in that gathering space and connect with that covered patio and effectively double your space.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think for events, I think that's very dramatic and really nice.
Mm-hmm.
For smaller groups, if there's an easy way to go in and out, or just single people that work next door, they'll use the patio more.
Because it's closer to their, yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm thinking. Right. And then my other question was about, for comment, the open shelving. It might be hard to make it look good, given that it's used for everything, and maybe we consider closed storage there.
Oh, absolutely. As I was trying to say earlier, this is just art to put up on the wall to kind of give you an idea if there's something here. All the cabinetry, all that stuff will have to be configured in the design, in the second phase, right? And it might be, we might actually enlist interior designer to help with that as well. So that's something that the city should consider in the second phase of this.
Well, I think that I know there's a lot of work behind the screen that you put into this, so we can visualize it. And I think that once we lock on the dimensions and whatnot, then we'll be able to get all that detail. Because I've been thinking the same thing, like, where's the screen gonna go and how can you do it? And this is just so exciting for me to see this.
Great.
I want to see the main room now in the front.
So we're gonna spin around and show you the other rooms. So by the way, where that piece of artwork is right now, and that we show a console table, that would be the other option to put a double wide window. So you would have, possibly wall on either side, right, to go with your suggestion. So we'll look at both of those. There's pros and cons. I think when you walk in the front doors, you see windows. That's always fun. It's always great to see light. However, you also might have just some really impactful wall hanging there. So now you come in and you stop your eye at the wall hanging to see all the way through to the street. So that was one of the things that we were thinking about as well.
Yeah, one of the others, I don't know if I can add, but one of the reasons the windows are different there is because there's a different roof form above it. So you want to do something different there to differentiate it. When we had the same windows all the way across that wall, it looked a little too mundane and plain. So doing something, there could be a different arrangement, of course, but maybe doing something special there was even more important.
Well, we definitely can look into that if everybody likes the overall concept and the idea of the gable. We can refine those little things. We can get a bit closer to the end result of the kitchen, for the shelves and all that, right? If those are cabinets or something that opens up to a screen, I don't know, right? So there's a lot of options there. I don't think the need for a lot of storage in there is that important. We do have quite a bit of storage built in. So that again, that's something that should be looked at as you get into this more than the nitty gritty. What we're trying to do, I just want to remind everybody that the goal of this is to come up with a configuration that's everybody supports, but then we can now just get our PCE process going. Because right, we really need to know what this is going to cost, and if this is feasible. So that's that wall. You can see, I know Heather's nodding her head. That could be that truss across. So you could have one really open space. Could be very dramatic. The only downside I see with that, I think the costs may be okay, it's the, if you ever wanted to separate those rooms, then with that open truss is just almost impossible.
But you could technically separate it, just have a upper portion of the truss be open, and that might serve enough of a purpose to separate it. I think the advantages of having it open far outweigh being able to separate the spaces.
So what we're talking about separation of spaces. It's not just the visual, possibly, it could be audio, acoustic separation as well. And so you'd probably have to put panes of glass in all those triangular spaces to get the look, but then you could get the audio separation. But I think that's kind of getting a little bit fussy, and then you're going to sense that glass and not see it as a see-through. So I don't know. I mean, that's certainly something that the committee should kick around. Visually, I agree that it'd be phenomenal to have it open, but we were thinking of that ability in the future to put doors in there. If you want to do like just the simple accordion doors, or the folding panel doors that you'll see in event centers, right? So
Also in terms of symmetry, you already have a flat roof on the side for the kitchen, it might be okay to have it on the other side too, with just the center being like the focus of the center, and with the entire process showing. So.
That's a good point as well. So
just to give us an understanding of scale, I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, what's the size of this rectangular space relative to this rectangular space that we're in right now?
Yeah, you have a laser. Jackie, you can tell us what the length is of the back. We have 55 feet. From the back of the kitchen.
Oh, already that's the party measure?
No, we haven't measured this one, so.
$37.5.
So the room we're in now is 37.5.
And how wide is the room here? Or maybe go from this.
That's 22.9. 25.4.
So 25.4. We're about 19 on the interior, but we are 20 feet longer.
Right, and then with if those bifolding doors were open, wow, that's
right.
That's nice space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 1.5 times, 1 1/3 of this.
So it's almost like including the space behind there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really. Someone did say you could have your city council meetings in there. So no,
with snacks.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do think that this building can serve so many functions. And if you guys feel the need to convert some of the space, I don't know.
What I'm thinking is it would be great to have a big space there. And you know what? Rather than carve that space up, just come in here.
Yeah.
No.
I know exactly. I think having it open is.
Oh,
You could have screens in there. You could have overflow it in a one of those lovely contentious city council meetings where everybody's here.
That's
you
right.
could put another 50, 60 people over there with screens.
With a screen and then
an opportunity to actually be heard with a podium.
well, when I was since you raised screens, over top on the other side where you've got the triangular piece that for the flat roof of the kitchen, I think that's where the screen should be, on top, up high.
How high is that? That's only.
That's pretty high.
Yeah.
Because then anyways, those are details. Conceptually,
That's right.
this gives us a feel for the space. We've got alternatives, but there's no point in planning something out until we agree on the space.
Right.
What are I'm sensitive to the time. And what's the feedback that you need the committee and the public to give you now, kind of a go, no go, so that you're going down a certain path?
Well, so this is a new floor plan, right? And so if we were hopeful that everybody likes this floor plan, supportive of this floor plan, so that's key. This is the big step, is to get over the layout. There's little details here and there, you know, windows, columns, whatever, all that kind of stuff can be manipulated, or we look at those as a lesser detail. That we want the overall, so we can move forward with putting together a little package that we can now send out to some select bidders to get some preliminary numbers. So that's what we're just looking for. Anything that if this is a go, if this is almost a go, and I think some of the comments we've had today are definitely headed in that direction. And some of the other comments would not necessarily change the cost per se. For example, moving a couple windows here and there, not necessarily going to change our cost so much as they will just change the overall design. So we want to work in parallel. We want to just keep the design getting better.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for a vote or anything today, but if we could get maybe a consensus that we're in the right direction, that would be phenomenal for the progress for that, and then we can definitely then just jam on our next phase.
So maybe if you put the floor plan up, if we, with your permission, if we put the floor plan up, then we can say, do we like the different positions? Would we move any walls? And if we give you the, you know, consent, so we could develop a consensus on that. Or maybe we can do it from here.
And this is the overall concept. You guys like the idea of the lobby. You like the idea of this. You know, I think everybody loves the idea of this open space. You know, if there's any other things we should be thinking about, please, you know, if we can, the sooner we get all those comments, the better.
Maybe we do a round robin right now. Do you want that?
That's fine.
Okay. Steve?
I had one quick question, and just on the price point, by a limit, you know, the distinction between what we're seeing today and what we saw at our last committee meeting is the removal of the sleeping quarters, essentially, for the most part. And that actually reduces the overall cost of constructing the building, I would think.
I think that eliminating the area that we were demolishing and we're having to rebuild, yeah, more square footage to actually finish out on the interior, which does translate the cost. However, you're offsetting it by not doing the demolition. And everything else is the same. All the other components are essentially the same. We still have this kitchen area. We still have the restroom, right? We still want a storage, and we're still doing the addition. And so I think that is going to be could be a wash.
Okay.
By maintaining what the building you have already.
Okay.
It could be very helpful on that.
Then my comment is, I like this quite a bit. It's not going to cost us any more money, and it achieves the real purpose, which is to create a community room, and now we're allowing more of the community to participate in something. So I think this looks great. Jackie, very great job.
Thank you.
I would agree with what Steve has said. Just a couple of comments as you're going through. I think this is what I wanted to see, is a giant room that people could utilize in many different ways. Just a couple of comments, potentially where if we don't do a truss and we want to separate those rooms, I know it's an expensive item, but you could technically do pocketed doors that slide up, which would be kind of nice, but I don't know if we want to go to that expense. The other thought was, I think you had mentioned the couches and the furniture, because I think that's a nice feature if we could afford to do that as a city, to have furnishings, but it might be nice to figure out. I noticed in the floor plan, it looks like you could tuck 2 couches against the wall if you wanted to put tables in there, and they really wouldn't be in the circulation space. But it seems like we have space, and you could also tip a couch up if the opening for that storage door, when the tables are pulled out, could fit in there too, if people don't damage furniture doing it. But just to design it so we know where furnishings could go if we wanted to do a table setup. Having a wide enough door, I've moved a lot of furniture in my time. And I know you can get a lot in that storage closet. You could probably get 3 couches up on end if they were the right size in that storage closet. I don't know if that's something we would want to be doing because of you're having, who knows who's moving them and if they're gonna get damaged, but that's a possibility as well.
Definitely. Thank you. Good.
So you like the floor plan?
I think it's great.
Okay,
Yeah, I just want, on the pocket idea, if I may. In order to create enough pocket space for a door to fit,
Yes, yeah.
the wing walls would really start to come in.
Yeah.
So that's gonna really break up that space quite a bit and start to create pinch points.
Yeah.
However, we do have a wall that we're building by where the storage room is, and potentially to decrease the width of the storage room and actually put the pockets that way, so they all pull from one side.
That would be nice.
We might be able to fit 3 doors in there or something, yeah.
Those get expensive though, so when we look at the budget, that's usually the first thing to go, so.
Exactly. So they have those little old fashioned accordions, you know?
Vivian?
Yeah, I think this is great. You know, I didn't know what to expect when I came in. This is my first meeting here, but this is amazing. So,
Excellent.
I'll save my comments for the end.
I agree with the foregoing comments. I like the big space. And I think it is worth getting into the nitty gritty a little bit of how we would store the couches so that we can have the couch and the round table option. And because it might affect walls like the closet.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great idea to have the furniture modular and sturdy enough that it could be put on end.
Yeah.
And you have the right rolling apertures to put this stuff on.
Furniture dollies.
Oh, absolutely.
I think this is amazing. I commend you for coming up with this and being able to rough it in so quickly so that we can say this is going in the direction. All the comments that you took from the last meeting, I think have been incorporated. The information from that we want to have a bigger space. I would look to keeping that space open above that we're seeing here that separates the rooms. I think the bigger, the more open, the better. I think the furniture is a detail, but I intend to go to Los Altos Community Center and tour that and a couple others that are around to see what their ideas are and what they would do different. But I think those are details on the furniture side, and we will solve those because, you know, to have it configurable in different manners makes it more usable. And I think one of the measures of our success of the community center is how much is it used? The more it's used, in my opinion, the better.
Yeah.
We're building something that we want to have used. So excellent. I'd like to open it, formally open public comment at this point in time. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand. I know, is Mary still with us?
She is.
Mary, do you have any comments?
I like it a lot. I think getting into the weeds maybe a little bit early. I particularly like the outside, and I'm hoping that whoever does the landscaping considers bees and butterflies.
Excellent.
So I think, is there anyone else that would like to speak from the public? No hands are raised. I'll close public comment and bring it back. You've heard that I think we've got consensus that we really like the direction you're going in and continue going in that direction. Do you have any other questions for us?
I
You
think,
need answered.
Again, I really appreciate all this feedback because I think what we're ending up with is a really great space. Very flexible space and Brian, to your point, if it's used, then if it's not gonna get used, what's the point? And I think that this is gonna be a real attraction. What we would do at this point would start to create the bid set, preliminary bid set. And so I'm not sure if we need any more meetings. I think what I would propose is that we prepare our package now with all of the instructions, and then we can issue it out to the committee to see if they wanted to add anything before we actually, put it out to the public.
Okay.
Does that sound like a plan?
Perfect.
Awesome.
Great.
So for your agenda, you actually indicate wanting to perhaps set a time frame. Do you have an idea of when you guys want to do that?
We could have it said done in about 2 weeks.
In about 2 weeks, because we did want to do some scheduling rather than doing it serially, sort of trying to figure it out if we're all in the room together.
And again, I don't know if this one could be something that we just share with everybody via email.
Oh, so we don't need a formal meeting per se.
Right. I don't know if you need a formal meeting. And then I would suggest if you see something awry or you have some other ideas that necessitate another meeting, then we would do that.
Okay, so we will not set the next meeting right now in this meeting. We'll figure that out.
And in your bid set, it would have how the alternatives like, the decorative truss open as opposed to something like we saw today depicted in the drawings, and a railing around the veranda as opposed to just the bollards and stuff like that. How are those options going to be depicted in what you're preparing?
Yeah, so we're still giving conceptual ideas, right? So we would maybe sketch out a detail that says this is option 1, this is option 2.
Okay.
The trellis versus the flat roof, option 1, option 2. Truss versus solid, gable between the 2 rooms, option 1, option 2. So we will actually provide a little inset, a little detail. Hey, this is, please consider this as an option. And we'll create one set that's all A's, and then there'll be the B's for those different options.
This is for the preliminary.
This is for preliminary.
This is not the bid set where people are saying this is what we're going to bid.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that the only real difference is going to be the trellis versus the covered area. And I think if everybody wants a covered area, let's just see what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
We can always go back. We do this with clients quite a bit. You always, you're always going to get your best price in the beginning.
And then we also have to go through the construction drawings. That's down the path.
That's down the path. Yeah, that's a new contract and everything, and then new.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, awesome. Love the symmetry in the front. That's really, the gables are really perfect.
All right. That said, I will close the meeting at 10:35. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do